Hi, welcome back to Waxing On. It's Wednesday, and we're going to continue the tradition for the last 2 weeks of featuring a video. Now, the last 2 weeks we looked at Live Aid, Bob Geldof was involved with. Last week it was SARS Fest, headlining the Rolling Stones during the big epidemic in Toronto. Today it's about another legendary figure in rock and roll, but this time it's not a concert video as such. There's musical clips in it, but it's a documentary. And this video was dropped off for me, I guess before Christmas. When I got around to watching it, it's Ronnie Hawkins, still alive and kicking. I mean, this is a legend of rock and roll. Now, I'm great for a couple of reasons here. Ronnie Hawkins from Arkansas, early 60s, late 50s, early 60s, brought another drummer from Arkansas up with him, a fellow named Levon Helm. Now, some of you may recognize that name. We'll get to that in just a second. And where did he settle? Toronto. Settled in Toronto. Yeah, Ronnie Hawkins lived in the Toronto area most from 60s on. He had a farm out in the country. He lived in Mississauga. He was living in the Peterborough area, which is just kind of northeast of Toronto at the time he passed away in 2022. And he had been the king of Yonge Street. He was working the clubs there. He was really just a monster act. Now, I mentioned Levon Helm came up with him. He's famous for putting together one of the greatest bands of all time. Along with Levon, he picked up 4 other Toronto area, Ontario musicians to back him up. Yeah, so it was Rick Danko, Richard Manuel, Garth Hudson, and the great Robbie Robertson. Yeah, you recognize those names, right? They were with Hawkins for a while. They moved on to the U.S. where they backed up Bob Dylan for a while. Then they branched out and went on their own as, say it with me, the band. Yes, legends of rock and roll. All came out of the Toronto area and were put together as the backup band for Ronnie Hawkins. Now, Ronnie did a lot of really different rock and roll at that time. Kind of rock and roll, kind of blues, but again, he was an iconic performer. And he had also developed some other people in the band that turned out to have good careers on their own. So not just the band, one of his piano players, David Foster. Now you're thinking there, yeah, I know that name from somewhere. Sure you do. He's a super producer and probably produced anybody you've ever listened to before. I mean, he was big with he produced Chicago. He produced Michael Bublé, Josh Groban, Barbra Streisand, Celine Dion, all of these, and had his own TV show for a while. I mean, this guy is just a monster success. Started out, well, didn't start out, but was a backup player for Ronnie Hawkins, one of the members of the Hawks. There's also another one that I found out when I was watching the video, Beverly D'Angelo. Now, I know you're sitting there saying, yeah, I know that name from somewhere. Sure you do. We know her as Clark Griswold's wife, from National Lampoon Vacation movies. She, when she lived in Toronto in the 60s, was a backup singer for Ronnie Hawkins and the Hawks. I mean, everything comes back to Toronto, right? Now, the video has concert clips in there. It's got clips from different musicians, Chris Christopherson, Robbie Robertson, Foster, talking about Hawkins. It covers a little bit about Hawkins' health issues. He had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Doctors really weren't having much success with treatments, but he was cured by a young lad from out in Western Canada, BC, who pictured and visualized all this stuff and went in and manipulated things and cured his cancer. Another amazing story. There's so much legend tied in with him, not counting just the wild and crazy rock and roll side and the things that went on there that a lot of people don't even want to talk about. Set that aside. It's all about the music, man. So not a lot of music in here. There's clips of different songs. I mean, we got 40 Days, Bo Diddley, and Who Do You Love? Come back to those in just a second. Need Your Lovin', Blue Eyed Baby, You Lose a Good Thing, Low Life Street Blues, Hoochie Coochie, Down in the Alley, Mary Lou, Fly Like a Hawk, and Lodi. Clips from those songs in here. Now, if you want to listen to the music, yeah, you have to be like me. There's not a lot of places to buy it. online. I'm going to have to go to the streaming networks, and I go there and they've got a whole catalog for you to get a chance to experience what Ronnie Hawkins was all about. Now, there was an album listed the best of Ronnie Hawkins and the Hawks. Now, I did some research on this, and while it does include some members of the band, there was actually only 2 songs that included the whole band unit, all 5 of them. And that was Bo Diddley and Who Do You Love? And apparently, Robertson did just a crazy smoking solo in there, so I'm anxious to check that out. So a lot of things that mention the Hawks, there are lots of different variations, lots of musicians went through it. Check it out on Wikipedia. There's a whole story there about Hawkins, about the band, about the different people that have come through. I've just touched on a few of them, but I mean, this guy, he was just a legend. That's all I can say. The video is great to kind of give you a little history about him, give you a lot of backstory, some of the clips of the music, but if you're interested in the tunes, hook on to one of the streaming networks. There's a lot out there to listen to, and I'll tell you, it'll be an exciting evening for you. So that's it for today. Rompin' Ronnie Hawkins. Check it out. You won't be disappointed. We'll see you on Friday when we have a look at another classic rock album. Till then, everybody take care, stay safe. We'll see you Friday.